It is Thursday, August 13th, 2020. I'm Pastor Thor Ramsey with Center Church. This is Gospel for Five, where we take 5 minutes out of our day and focus on the gospel and the one who saved our souls. So we've been talking about the sanctification process, what that really looks like, some of the misconceptions about it. And one of the things we're going to be looking at today is, how do we change? How does holiness come about? How do we change? How do we change our perspective about these things, about the Christian life? How do we change our behavior? How do we become holy? Well, again, if the Christian life flows from the inside out, then it is first by believing the right things. Orthodoxy, believing the right things, leads to orthopraxy, the practice of the right things. So by believing the person of Jesus, believing Jesus, trusting Jesus, believing the gospel. Galatians 3 and 5. Are you so foolish? Having begun by the Spirit, are you now being perfected by the flesh? Boy, was that an issue in my early Christian life. In other words, are you perfected by the external things you're doing? Are you becoming holy by certain things that you're doing and avoiding certain things? Did you suffer so many things in vain? Paul goes on to say, if indeed it was in vain. Does he who supplies the Spirit to you and works miracles among you do so by the works of the law or by hearing with faith? This is so key and so vital. And I think that's why we struggle with this. I think that's why most Christians on a spectrum lean one way or the other between legalism and license, because we know we have to read the Bible and believe the Bible and obey the Bible and proclaim the Bible. We know we have to do those things, and all of a sudden those things can take on a law, it becomes the law, right? So we become very legalistic about it. Because why? Because this is how we're going to become holy, and then once we're holy, God will bless us and then use us, but we've got to become holy. But then you got the law, the licensed people too. So it's this struggle. But this is such an amazing verse. He says the same thing, I think, in Corinthians, if I'm not mistaken. But right now we're in Galatians. So you've had all these trials in your Christian life. All these tribulations, did you suffer those? Were they useless? Were they just useless things? Does he who supplies the Spirit to you and work miracles among you do so by works of the law? Like, how do miracles come about? Do they come about because we're adhering to certain laws, because God told us to do X, Y, and Z, and we're doing X, Y, Z, so we're clearly now, God, where's the miracle? Bring the miracle. Notice this is really the teaching of the prosperity. And the prosperity movement has its roots in higher life theology. It really does, because a lot of the prosperity movement is that same way, right? If you look at revivalists who embrace higher life theology, and then you compare that to the message of the prosperity movement, you'll see a correlation. Right? So let's look at the prosperity movement, and then we'll work backwards to the higher life. But in the prosperity movement, they're like, if you give God lots of money, he'll then supply lots of money in return. So if you do this, then you can expect God to do this. It's the same thing. It's like, if you have a lot of faith, you can expect a big miracle. If you only have a little faith, don't expect any miracles. So really, it's all dependent upon you, and then you become the person who can pull the lever to get God to dispense his miracle. And that's a real characterization of prosperity doctrine. But that's the idea, really, when you boil it down. They've been as blatant as that. They've been as crass as that. Well, they've said it. You give God 10% of your in it, he'll increase it 100-fold, type of thing. But you find the same mentality in revivalists, revivalism, I should say. Not true revival. I believe in true revival, not revivalism. But in revivalism, it's almost like we become the mechanism through which God will bring revival. If we meet the conditions of holiness, here, here, and here, then God must bring revival. That's really what Charles Finney taught. Revival is just the how determined. It's basically a means to an end, but you meet these conditions, and then God is obligated to bring revival. In Finney's theology, you could if you adhered to everything that he felt God demanded to bring revival, God would have to bring revival. And of course, that's the idea here that Paul's refuting. Does he who supplies the Spirit to you and works miracles among you do so by works of the law or by hearing with faith? Miracles come about through a relational trust we have with Jesus Christ. Now, I need to say more about that, but for now, what has God said to you today? And what are you going to do about it?